Hello everyone, this is Nick, and yes, it is here, the next points change for X-Wing 2nd edition. At least we have an update of what it's all going to be. This is going to come into effect July 11th, so we got a bit of time to experiment. I fully intend to do a trick shot swarm in the next couple of weeks to make full use of that before it goes up to 4 points. But for the time being, let's take a look at all of these changes and discuss what impact they're going to have on the meta in general. Now, there's a lot for me to get through here, so I'm not going to do it all in one video. We have 4 large lists and 4 small lists. The 4 large lists being the large factions and the generics, and the small ones being the small factions. So in each of these videos, I'm going to do 1 large list and 1 small list, and we'll hopefully get through these in the next few days and have a good old chat about all this. In this video, we're going to discuss the Galactic Empire and the First Order, because there's some really interesting stuff that's happened, specifically with the Galactic Empire, which I think I want to talk about as soon as possible. And also, of course, would love to hear your guys' thoughts on any of this, so in the comments section below, please let me know if there's anything you think I missed. By the way, the stream for this was actually at 4 AM here in Australia, so I didn't get to watch that, so if FFG discussed anything that I didn't talk about in these videos, feel free to let me know. Also, I have the old points here on my phone so I can refer to them as I read this, because I'm going to use the FFG documents. Now, a great thing FFG have done in these new documents is actually highlight in red and blue when points have gone up and down respectively. A great quality of life change. I wish they actually noted how much they've gone up and down, but at the very least, yes, you can see what's been nerfed and buffed, and I really do appreciate that. Good job FFG on that. So let's dive right into this, starting with the Alpha Class Starwing. We have a 2-point increase on Major Vinder. Now he's being seen a little bit of play in this kind of hyper stacked Alpha Class Starwing and Palp list. Yeah, it seems reasonable enough. I mean, it's the kind of thing which does force that list to take different options, albeit slightly. Also, bear in mind there's a point increase on proton torpedoes, so that is going to really push the limits in terms of what that list is capable of taking. It probably just means that Major Vinder has to take a few less pieces of ordnance. But I think given the results, that's okay. The TIE Advanced V1 has had a points reduction across the board. Let's take a look at how much that's been by. 4 points on the Grand Inquisitor on the top end, and 1 point on the Baron of the Empire on the low end, which is nice to see. Baron of the Empire only 32 points, but that's the one without any force upgrades. I think the real generic people are looking at is the Inquisitor, and this is actually very interesting because we have a severe points reduction on a lot of generic force upgrades, so yeah, that's kind of interesting. We can easily get it in under the threshold of 40 points and field them as a 5 of. Could be cool. When this was first revealed, I remember we were talking about like a fat Supernatural Reflexes 4 of build with this. But maybe with some more fair upgrades, we could say there might be a build that comes out of that. Also, it's great to see the Grand Inquisitor come down. Was a real heavy hitter in first edition and has just basically done nothing in second edition. Also, yes, the better performing Imperial Aces have gone up a little bit, so I think that's probably fair enough. Speaking of which, the TIE Advanced X1, yes, Vader's gone up a little bit. Look, given his meta share, I think this is probably fair enough. In fact, in terms of extended, we're pretty much just seeing TIE Phantoms. Spoiler alert, they've gone up as well. And like the 3 TIE Phantom Vader builds, so this makes sense. 65 points was pretty generous, considering he's already cheaper than Fen Rao and stuff like that. I think this is reasonable, and it's only 2 points. At the end of the day, it's really only just cutting into those bids, cutting into those more expensive builds. A lot of Vader's key cards haven't been touched in terms of points, so this is only slight. I don't think this is really going to hurt many Vader builds. Also, yeah, Winterfell, and this makes sense. Winterfell was 52 points, wasn't he? Yeah, so up by 1 point. Great, it's going to eat into bids, whatever. Now, I'm very curious, in case any of you guys are Imperial players out there, looking at this point increase on Vader and Winterfell, is there anything in particular this is going to hurt quite severely? Because as far as I'm aware, lists that take Vader and Winterfell generally have a pretty big bid anyway, so yeah, this doesn't jump out at me as targeting anything in particular. I think Winterfell, yes, is a bit fairer at the 1 or 2 points more. Like, he is really, really outperforming all the other interceptors, and considering the platform, yes, there needs to be a steep curve on those points. Initiative 6 on that platform with that ability, yep, no joke, absolutely. Seems reasonable and fair. I'm just curious as to what specifically triggered that 1 point increase. Moving down, we have no increases or decreases on the TIE Reaper. We have some point decreases on the TIE Aggressor, and yes, this was something that I think basically all of us expected. This ship has been performing pretty poorly overall. In fact, I made the comment on my Facebook page the other day, everything we've covered in the junkyard basically should go down in points. And I think everything did apart from the Azatach, if I'm remembering that correctly. So, on this platform, we have a 3-point reduction at the top end on Lieutenant Kestal, and a 2-point reduction on the Sonar Specialist. That seems really, really good, actually. Sonar Specialist was previously 30 points down to 28. Now, it is important to remember that the Veteran Turret Gunner has gone up in points as well, so depending on what this does, it does mean we can get a Dorse Turret on there for 30 points. That does not seem irrelevant. Maybe we take a build without gunners on these guys. Maybe that's something we can do. If it's just efficient enough, the gunners aren't always that crucial. Always curious to see what this kind of platform can do. I like Kestal's ability. I'd like to see it seeing a bit of meta play. I just think that ability is narrow, but if it's cheap enough, it can be relevant enough of the time to be worth taking. So really hope we see a bit more of this on the table. Let us scroll down. No change on the Punisher. That was hit pretty hard in the last points change, and it hasn't seen much meta play since, so that's probably fair enough. It more than enough had its time in the sun. Okay, a point decrease on the TIE Defender. Let's take a closer look at this one. So Vessery at the top end has had a 2-point reduction, and the Delta Squadron pilot has had a 1-point reduction, so only very slightly. I know a lot of people think this should have been much more severe. I do err on the side of caution. Again, we keep getting the comment that if you can't field 3 of these, it's terrible. I completely disagree. I think it is a core part of the design of this ship that you should not be able to field 3 of them. It is clearly better than a third of your squad. It's just whether or not this point reduction is enough. I think also we should take into account the fact that a lot of the better performing things in the Empire has gone up in points, so the efficiency level feels a lot fairer across the board, and that means it might be okay. Yeah, I'm curious about it. I think all of these platforms have a shot now, but yeah, bear in mind, yeah, Duke's gone up, so that kind of eats that points change anyway. Oh well, sad face. The TIE Alien Fighter has had no change. Yes, in case you guys weren't aware, this is kind of like the benchmark ship for FFG in terms of design, so they generally want to try and keep this the same and move everything else around it. No surprises there. TIE Phantom has gone up across the board. Okay, let's take a quick look at how much by. So Whisper has gone up 3 points. Echo has gone up 1 point. Sigma Squadron Ace has gone up 2 points. And the Imdar test pilot has gone up 1 point. So the key things hit here is Whisper and the Sigma Squadron Ace. No surprises, they're the ones seeing the most meta share, so I think that's probably fair enough. These things have been pretty dominant during the first 2 sets of points for 2nd edition, so yeah, look, it's time. It's time for something else in the Empire to have this kind of meta share, I think. Sigma Squadron Aces, if you fly them as a 4-of, you have enough points to take 1 copy of Duke now, which I think is correct. I think just reducing it by 1 in the last points change was not enough. It's got to be this severe to really affect what's happening on the table. Look, it's still a great ship, and I think the kind of people that love taking pilots like Whisper or Echo will still do so. It's just fair. I think fair is the right thing to call it right now. Okay, moving down to the Bomber. We have a points reduction on the frame, the lowest cost pilot in the Scimitar Squadron pilot. What were you originally? 30 down to 29. That feels like FFG are enabling something. A 1 point upgrade on 4 or 5 of build. I I don't know. I don't know. It's a bit of a head scratcher, some of these, like the 1 point up or down. Like usually with situations like this, there's something specifically they're targeting, either making something not realistic or they're trying to enable something by reducing something by 1 point. I don't know. I can't really comment on that. It's only a point off one particular pilot. Okay, moving down to the TIE Striker. No changes. Yep, that seems good to me. We're seeing a little bit of meta share on basically all of these pilots here and there. And I think especially now that other things have gone up in points, we might see more of these on the table. And moving down to the VT49 Decimator, we've added a crew slot here. Also a points reduction across the board. How much by, FFG? How much by? We have a 4-point reduction on Rear Admiral Shiranu. We have a 4-point reduction on Captain Oiken. And we have a 4-point reduction on Patrol Leader. That's pretty severe. And this is interesting because we did speak about this in one of the junkyards. And then they had a little bit of success in a system open just after that. But not a whole heap of meta share. Look, considering there's no other sort of like YT-like ship on the Empire, I think the one option they have does have to be competitive. Hopefully not unfair. Honestly, I do feel like this was about 4 points off anyway, if not more so. Now, the third crew, what kind of things can we do there? It means we can take Palp and another crew member. It means we can take all 4 Force users. Vader, the Grand Inquisitor, 7th Sister, and 5th Brother. If you want to be really insane, I suppose that's the thing you can do if you really want to. You can go Palp and Vader, or Palp and another Force user. That's kind of cool. We finally have the ability to get multiple Force tokens on a Palp carrier. I don't know, it might be a thing. I don't know if Palp's really that powerful to sort of justify that kind of thing. I mean, I'm hoping we do see more play on Palp. I do quite like the card. But yes, more crew is always good. It's the upgrade slot which always feels relevant whether FFG take it away or add it on. And yeah, hopefully we see more Decimators on the table because it's a cool ship and I know Justin likes it. Okay, let's get down to these upgrades. We have some point tweaking. Admiral Sloane's gone down. Admiral Sloane, what were you? Admiral Sloane was 10 points, down 1 point. I mean, she's seen a bit of meta share. Curious. Okay. Asian Callus down by a point. Sienna Ray down by 4 points. Okay. This could be another one of those things that FFG is pushing for meta play. Hopefully not as oppressively as the Princess Leia situation. Although I don't think Sienna Ray is really that busted at 6 points. I really do like the idea of running her on a Decimator alongside like Suntia or Vader, maybe a Defender. It feels like there's a lot of really cool things we can be doing there. Vader did not move at 14 points. Direct to Krennic was 5 points down to 4 points. Yeah, just slight increases and decreases. Moff to Jarrett down 2 points. That's really cool. So Moff to Jarrett is kind of this really fun kind of Johnny effect, what I'd call, because it's this really powerful thing you can do in the right situation. Giving all of your ships a boost in the same direction can really mess up a board state, but it just felt like a bit too expensive at 10 points. Yeah, 8 points. Look, it's not the kind of effect that's easy to pull off. It's still expensive, so yeah, I'm curious about that. Apart from that, no changes. Palp is still 11 points. I think we could have seen a reduction on him, but considering the Decimator became a lot more tantalising option for him, yeah, maybe keeping him the same was the right call there. Hyperspace Legality added to BT1, 5th Brother. Yep, they're in the Decimator pack. That makes sense. And that is it. Cool. Let's move over to the First Order. Okay, and there was a slight points decrease on all the TIE FOs. On the top end, we have a 1 point reduction on Midnight. On the bottom end, we have a 2 point reduction on the Epsilon Squadron Cadet. Considering it has good dial, it's a small base ship, has barrel roll, I think just increasing that curve, making the bottom end a bit lower and the top end a little bit higher, just even by 1 point, is important. 43 still feels like a pretty good cost for Midnight. This honestly feels pretty fair across the board. I mean, we're seeing a lot of lists just taking like generic and fanatical. Midnight's something that could see a lot more meta play. It's a pilot that had a lot more relevance in first edition because of the kind of upgrades that she could take. Now she doesn't have those options, but it's still a pretty decent effect. So yeah, cool. Happy to see all of this. I mean, most first order lists are pretty much like a silencer, a TIE SF, and the FOs tend to be just in there for filler, so maybe having a bit more relevance on them, giving them a bit more of a competitive costing does make a lot of sense. Moving on to the SFs, speaking of which, we have a 2-point reduction on Backdraft. We have a 2-point reduction on Omega Squadron Expert and a 2-point reduction on the Zeta Squadron Survivor. Yeah, it makes sense. Quick Draw is basically seeing all the meta play. In fact, Quick Draw is basically the pilot to take on the First Order. A lot of Quick Draw plus stuff going around on there. Moving over the TIE Silencer, we have no points changed on Kylo, by far the most popular pilot on this platform, but a point reduction on Blackout by 1 point. 1 point on Recoil as well, and 1 point on the Sinar Jameis Engineer. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the other pilots anyway. 1 point is not irrelevant, I suppose. Again, this feels like FFG are trying to enable something. You also have to remember, in general, as we're going through these, yes, increasing a bid by 1 or 2 points is always great, but ultimately, the points change don't really have that much of an effect unless they directly enable or disable some kind of combination of parts and upgrades. So while this is good, I sort of shrug and think, okay, I mean, what does it do? Just add to a bid? I don't think this is really pushing the silencer anywhere it couldn't previously go. I will say I do like it on the FO, considering how many you put in one list. And we've got some points increases on the Upsilon class shuttle. Captain Cardinal, Major Strident, Lieutenant Tavson, 1 point for each, 2 points on Tavson, and 2 points up on Petty Officer Thanison, and 2 points up on Starkiller Base Pilot. And I think this is a very good move by FFG, considering basically all the small base ships have gone down in points. They're trying to push people away from taking the spam Upsilon lists. Not that it's impossible at this point, but the whole point is, if you're the kind of pilot that takes multiple Upsilons, this is going to make that a lot harder. But if you're the kind of pilot that takes one Upsilon and several small base ships, it's kind of a wash at this point, and they haven't really hurt that style of list. In fact, the more small base ships you take, the cheaper your list overall becomes. So FFG are trying to really push for the Upsilon to become a support role ship. Which makes perfect sense. I think that's exactly what it should be. Let's move down to these first order upgrades, and we have a points decrease on General Hux. What were you before, Hux? You were, 10 points, down by 4 points. Oh, this could be one of those things that FFG are trying to push. Yeah, I like Hux a lot, but yeah, basically no meta share. Considering the Upsilon's gone up, that's great, but Hux more than makes up for that points deficit. But bear in mind, Hux is only good, again, when you're taking small ships alongside the Upsilon. Again, this isn't really enabling or disabling certain types of lists, but it is pushing people to take Upsilons as a support role. This makes perfect sense. They probably could have done a similar thing with like Snoke or Kylo if they really wanted to push this hard, but I think Hux is the right call. Hux is definitely the commander you put on Upsilon plus 3 small ships. I think what you ultimately have to appreciate is, yes, FFG can sort of throw these pilots' points and upgrade costs into the ether and sort of push people in a certain way with design, but when it comes to the way we play the game, players as a whole, especially tournament spikes, are often quite inclined to try and break things, and like spamming out Upsilons was clearly something FFG did not want. It was addressed in the emergency points change, and it's even been addressed somewhat in this points change. The environment on the whole faction has changed, and I think, honestly, it's for the better. The 4 of / 3 of sort of ace builds on the first order, if anything, are only going to get better. And because Hux is cheaper, there's still a great reason to take Upsilon. So really happy with the way FFG have played around with this faction. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Stay tuned, there's still 3 more of these to come. We'll do the Rebellion and Resistance in the next one of these. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe. Like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Reddit. Please consider supporting the Patreon as well. This is the key thing that is helping my channel stay afloat right now. Thank you so much to all of my existing patrons, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.